When the status of an application says under review, and there are 4 different variations of under review that might appear, the provider needs to take a look at the application and decide whether to approve or reject the application. Now, each provider has their own set of rules for deciding how to determine whether something should be approved or not. However, there are some common review steps that are performed by almost everybody, and I'll go through how to perform those review steps using online mooring. Everything that I'm going to cover in this training video is also covered in textual form in our help. If you were to click on the help link, this will bring up the help page, and you can find the topic called Reviewing an Application. This will give you information on most of those common review steps. Going back to the application, there are a few reviews that almost every provider will do. The first review is to make sure that all the necessary information on the application has been filled in. If an application fills out their application online, then they will have filled out all of the required information because the software requires them to fill in that information and won't let them complete the process unless they do. However, it is possible some providers allow the applicants to print off an application and to submit it using the mail. And if they do that, then the applicant is writing their information on the paper, and there's no way that online mooring can enforce that the information has been entered. So the provider will need to take a look at that piece of paper and make sure that everything that is supposed to be there is there. The second thing that a provider might do is to check what the applicant changed during their most recent application submittal. It's possible for an applicant to go through the application and not change anything, but in some cases they might change some information that might be very important, such as the length of the vessel, because an increased vessel length might mean that the vessel can no longer fit in its assigned location, or that it's something that's too big for the mooring that it's on. A way for a provider to see what has changed is our audit trail. The way that you can look at the audit is by scrolling to the bottom of the application summary page and clicking on the audit button. The audit button, when you first come in here, shows you all the changes that have occurred on the application within the past couple of months. You can see here that it's broken down by section of the application. For example, in the vessel section, B. Hurley was the user that made the change. Here's the date when they made the change, and the change that they made was in this case, updated the length in feet field from a blank value to a value of 34 feet, changed the draft from a blank to 6, and so on and so forth. If you really want to go back further in time, you can change the date and view all changes since a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever the case may be, and then you hit the refresh button and it'll show all of the changes during that time frame. Once you've finished reviewing the audit, you can hit the continue button and that'll bring you back to the application summary. Probably the most important review, review number 3 on my list here, is reviewing that the applicant has paid everything that they're supposed to have paid. If you scroll down to the Actions section of the page, you will see a listing of all of the things that have happened to this application over time and all the fees that have been charged. But the important thing for the review is to look at the balance column. Anything that shows in red is a fee that has not been paid according to the records in online mooring. Now, if the applicant paid their fees through our product using Google Checkout, then the payment would be recorded automatically, and the balance would reflect 0. If the applicant, however, submits payment to the provider in some other way, such as by check or cash, money order, then this requires that the provider enter in on the payment section here that payment. Otherwise, online mooring will think that the applicant owes money even if they don't. So let's take an example here. Let's say that the applicant submitted a check for $55 You come into the payment section, click the New button. You can enter in the date when the check was received. You can enter in the amount that was paid. Let's say I paid $30 with check number 1234. And down below is a list of all of the outstanding charges for this application. Online Mooring tries to figure out automatically, as best it can, what that payment is for. It tries to apply it to the fees that have been outstanding the longest. And if you find that the payment amount does not match the amount due, then you can, and if you want, you can change around what that money was allocated to. At any rate, hit the Save button when you're all done. And what you'll see in this case is that 2 of the 4 red numbers here have disappeared, and now there are only 2 outstanding charges. So so it's important to come to this action section and take a look at the balances. Review number 4 it would be checking to make sure that all of the necessary documents have been provided in support of the application. The document section here on the application summary page lists all of the different types of supporting documents that the provider has configured that are needed. And there are 2 ways that the documents can be provided from the applicant to the provider, either in electronic form or in a paper form. If someone were to submit something in electronic form, then this document type name would turn into a hyperlink, so it would no longer show in red. And you can click on that hyperlink to view the uploaded document. It's important to actually look at it. Just because the applicant said that it was a current boat registration doesn't mean that it really was. So you need to take a look at it to make sure that it was correct and that it really was appropriate. The other, if you see something in yellow, this is a document that was requested but wasn't required, that has not been provided by the applicant in electronic form or in paper. Now let's say that an applicant provided something to you in paper form. You can indicate that you've received the paper by going into the Edit button. Then you come to this page where you can enter in the information. Yes, I've received a paper copy of the boat registration. The boat registration expires next spring. And when you save that and continue, then what you'll see if you scroll down to the document section is that that boat registration that used to appear in red no longer appears in red. So you're basically looking for anything that is in red here as a potential problem as to why you might not approve an application. And just to show you what things look like if you were to upload an electronic document, hit the Browse button. I mean, and you can certainly do this. Let's say you wanted to upload an image. When you come back here, now that boat registration is in blue, if you click on it, it'll show the thing that you uploaded, which in this case is not actually a boat registration. So if you saw something like this, that would be reason to at least contact the applicant and to potentially reject their application. The last review that I was going to cover here was to review that a valid inspection has been performed. Some providers require that an inspection has been conducted within a certain number of years before the current date, typically 2 or 3 years. That's all controlled by the configuration of the product. And at this point you can see that also in red it shows that an inspection is needed because no inspection information has been entered in for this application at all. If you were to enter an inspection date, for an example, of, there was an inspection in January, or let's say July 1st of this year, I don't actually need to fill out any of the other information. But based on that and knowing how long the inspection is good for because of our configuration, the status now changed. It's no longer in red. It says the inspection is current, and it shows you the information about the most recent inspection. So in a nutshell, there are several things that will appear here in red on the application summary form if there are causes for concern, either if money doesn't appear to have been paid, if documents don't appear to have been provided that are required, if inspections haven't been provided, and that can give you a good heads up on finding things that may be cause for rejecting an application.